You won't believe what this man did to a 2-year-old or the sentence he got for it. So before I get started, this is an older case, but there is a very relevant reason that I'm talking about it now. On Thursday, October 1st, 2015, the Baldenob police received a report of S.A. The victim in that case was a 2-year-old. According to the police affidavit, the 2-year-old victim had to be transported to Unity Health Emergency Room by ambulance to be treated for what happened to her. Later that same day, the victim was taken to the White County Safety Center for a forensic exam. Now, during that forensic exam, it was found that the victim had acute trauma. So I looked up acute trauma because I want to be able to explain everything to you guys. So acute trauma in medical terms means severe and sudden in onset, meaning that it happened recently and it was severe. A SA kit was completed and that was sent to the Arkansas State Crime Lab to be processed. Now, like a month and a half later, on November 16th, 2015, that same victim was taken to the Arkansas Children's Hospital to be treated for lesions in her genital area. Now, those lesions were documented and they were scraped for testing. Now, I don't know, maybe you guys heard this differently than what I thought when I initially read this, but I was thinking, how did the person get access to the victim again 6 weeks later? That's not the case. That's not the case. The thing is that the victim had signs of a sexually transmitted disease, and that's why the victim was taken to Arkansas Children's Hospital 6 weeks after the assault happened. As police were investigating that incident on October 1st, the grape of the 2-year-old, they began to develop a suspect, and that suspect was named William Buffaloe. Police found that William Buffaloe, who was 29 years old when this happened, was the only adult male who had been with the child around the time of the assault. According to the police affidavit, William Buffaloe voluntarily allowed the police to take blood to be tested for sexually transmitted diseases, and William Buffalo tested positive for HSV1 and HSV2. Now, those HSV1 and HSV2 are the human simplex virus. They are the viruses that can cause genital herpes. That's what the victim tested positive for when she went to the hospital in November. That's what those lesions were, genital herpes from being raped by a grown man. So, William Buffalo was arrested and charged with rape in this case. William Buffalo was arrested for this in May 2016, and by September 2016, he had already cut a deal. William Buffalo had been in trouble before this rape charge. He had been arrested for theft of property and breaking and entering. So he actually was charged with a probation revocation on that case as well as the rape charge. William Buffalo in September 2016 pled guilty to first degree SA in the rape of this 2-year-old as well as the probation revocation. So that first degree SA carried a sentence of up to 30 years in the Arkansas Department of Corrections. And I know what you're thinking. He probably got 30 years for graping a 2-year-old, right? Wrong. William Buffalo was sentenced to 15 years in prison for graping a juvenile and giving her genital herpes. But he was also sentenced on the probation revocation. Now, he received 3 years in prison for the theft of property and 3 years for the breaking and entering. Those sentences probably ran consecutively, right? Consecutive sentencing would have meant William Buffalo would spend up to 21 years in prison in this case. But that's not what happened. William Buffalo was sentenced to concurrent sentencing, which meant only up to 15 years in prison for raping a 2-year-old and giving her genital warts. William Buffalo is still in Arkansas State Prison to this day, but the only reason William Buffalo is in prison is because of the Arkansas Parole Board. William Buffalo was first eligible for parole in 2020. In 2020, he got a 2-year denial, meaning he went up again in 2022. In 2022, he also got a 2-year denial. That's why he's still in prison. William Buffalo is set to have another parole hearing this year. It remains to be seen if the Arkansas Parole Board will allow this person to be released or if he will continue to sit in prison. So only time will tell on that. Well, I think the court system did their job somewhat in at least making sure that this person is a registered sex offender and pled guilty to the charge. They didn't do their job on the sentence. And that's really unfortunate because that 2-year old will probably carry the scars with her for a lifetime. Meanwhile, William Buffalo keeps having opportunities at freedom.